We know any of the Zongnung bikes, and the way it works is Zongnung makes bikes and then everybody else puts their label on it. So in this case it says Lance, but it could say Fly, it could say TNG, it could say BMS, it could say Scooter Depot, it could say Evo, it could say, I think there's 18 separate Taija Zongnung importers. This bike was actually designed by Zongnung and has certain characteristics, let's call them personality quirks. One, they squeak and pop like a mother, which kind of sucks. The other thing, and I think looking at this you've already experienced, this piece right here is really heavy and its mounting brackets are really weak, so they get sloppy like that really easy, because all it takes is, they have like 4 separate little plastic tabs that hold them in place, and you break one and then you got this.
They all go.
It sucks.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to have to replace that at some point, and you guys can order that, yeah?
Of course. Yeah, and the same color, everything.
Okay.
The advantage to your bike that is good about it, it has a leading link swing arm in the front and big wheels, which is awesome, because in LA, you know, you hit the metal plate in the road or something, you need to have as sophisticated a suspension as you can, and that thing right there will dampen a lot better instead of transferring all the shock to the bike. Now, on a regular basis, in general fit and finish, you know, you want to make sure, like, this returns briskly.
And what if it doesn't? What do you do?
Oh, you'll know, it's spongy.
But I mean, how do you fix it?
The master cylinder's failing.
Oh, okay.
The master cylinder, you want to look at these. Use your master cylinder sight glasses. This is actually a nice feature on your bike, is that you see the brake fluid right in here. And on both of them you can see, and if you move it, you see there's a bubble at the top. Kind of like a level. As long as this fluid is clear, and you can see this one's darkening, it's not bad yet, but they don't have a good carbon impregnation process in their rubbers, so it leaches carbon black into the hydraulic fluid. And hydraulic fluid is nasty shit, so that's not that surprising. It's just one of the differences between a Taiwanese bike and a Chinese bike, is it's leaching that carbon black into the fluid, and eventually we'll have to replace the whole assembly.
Can I just replace that fluid in the meantime as it gets dirtier?
Yeah.
And how do you do that? And is that something that I should do?
It's not something if you haven't bled brakes before, you don't want to do brakes.
Okay.
But just to go over that, you do have a nice access for it. So what you actually do, you take this off, you put a wrench on it, you squish this down, you open it, then you close it back, and then you release it, and you just open it, close it, and you're pumping downward. So that's what you do. You drain all the old stuff.
This controls front on this side.
That's the rear.
Okay, so this side's the rear. Left's the rear.
This is front, yeah.
Right's the front. Okay, cool.
So, like, typically you see this hose right here. This is what I mean by having to replace this assembly. We would replace from here up to where it meets up in there. This rubber hose.
When it starts to leach too much is what you're saying.
Yeah, if all of a sudden it's black or this gets spongy, you know, because right now you see it returns really briskly.
Yep.
So you pull it in and it goes like, you know.
Okay, cool. Got 4 minutes on here.
Okay. The most important thing on your bike where it is right now are these valve stems. And you can see right now they're lining up pretty good, but it's not completely seated. That's not life and death. They rot, and you'll actually see splits. Well, that's largely because as the wheel's going, centrifugal force is pulling down right here. You know, it's trying to pull itself out, fling out, right? You can see it's doing it right now. So as the wheel is spinning, it's pulling, and it'll separate. And also, we think LA air eats it up. Also, bad rubber processes. We replace these with Japanese ones done for rubber. It takes $40 each tire to repair them. Periodically check and make sure that nothing on here is rattling or loose. If your wheel moves...
Just those bolts? Just all these bolts right here?
Yeah, you don't so much have to do that because there's a lot of them. The main thing is, like, if all of a sudden this is sloppy, you see how rigid it is? Everything about it is really tight and not rattly, and it doesn't go wonk, and there's nothing missing. Missing is important. People drive their shit with stuff falling off. It's not good. Over here, the key and most important thing that you need to check a minimum of every 2 weeks is this bolt and this bolt. And if you follow this one here and this one here, and this is the exhaust mounting bolts, okay? They need to be checked periodically. Follow the pipe, and there are 2 acorn bolts right here. If you can get the camera on it, my fingers are actually touching them. These acorn bolts vibrate loose, and you have to check them about once a week, every 2 weeks.
Okay.
That right there is the most common thing, because what happens is the swing arm of the engine's moving up and down, and the muffler's kind of catching up. So you go bang, and you hit a pothole, and suddenly the engine moves up, and then the muffler catches up. So they're always trying to come apart. Check and make sure that these rubber hoses don't have any oozing. You know, you don't see like slime and dirt will attract to slime. And then checking your oil, and this is going to suck without you having a thinner stand. The bike needs to be straight up and down to check your oil.
Oh, I see. Usually I just hold it up.
All right, well, let's pretend you're holding it out right now. You see how right here you've just had your oil change and everything, so it's all fresh and clean, not black. It doesn't smell burnt. It smells like fresh oil. And trust me, you don't have to be a scientist to know what burnt smells like. So, but on the cross axis here, as long as the oil is in the cross axis, you're good. If you get down to the tip here, you need to add. If there's none on it at all, you have a problem. So then to check it, seat it, take it back out, and you can see that it's actually all over it. So you're actually just touching it. You don't have to screw it in to check it. When you get ready to ride, though, you must screw this in, because it's a pressurized oil system, and it'll shoot oil out like a fountain. I mean, people tend to do that once, and then they remember, because it'll shoot out like half a liter of oil in about 2 seconds.
1 minute 30.
Then make sure your tire pressure is good. Check
what should the tire pressure be?
25 on the front, 35 on the rear. And we have done all that for you already.
Okay.
Mostly it's the valve stems and the exhaust, and the reason that the valve stems is that if that thing fails, because it's failing from centrifugal force, it'll fail while you're riding it. So then all of a sudden you got that valve stem just flew out. You don't have tubes. Suddenly, and you know, invariably it'll be at the most dangerous point. You're going through an intersection, you hit a pothole, valve stem shoots off, explosive decompression, boom, you got a flat tire in the front, and you're trying to maneuver away from a Chevrolet Impala. So seriously, replace those when they start to get nasty looking. And again, you move it and it's got big fissures and cracks, they got to go. And the muffler, because they shake loose. And the brakes up here, again, I emphasize brake safety. As long as the brake caliper is working and returning, and those fluids are both there and not black or milky. If they're milky, that's been contaminated by water, and that has to be replaced. That's it.